They called him a monster. The streets feared his name. He built an empire with money, violence, and power. But in one unexpected moment, everything changed. He was shot. His heart stopped. The doctors declared him clinically dead. But Michael says death wasn't the end of his story, it was the beginning. What he experienced changed him forever. He walked away from millions of dollars. He forgave the boy who tried to kill him. And now he travels wherever God leads him, bringing hope to people the world has forgotten. But before Michael could rescue others, God first had to rescue him. This is where his mission began. Harlem, New York. Rain falls over worn apartment buildings as the neighborhood wakes up. Children hurry to school. Store owners unlock metal security gates. Police sirens echo in the distance. Everyone knows one name, Michael. To some, he is a ruthless drug lord. To others, he is the man who quietly paid rent when families faced eviction. He bought winter coats for children. He paid funeral expenses for grieving mothers. He donated anonymously to neighborhood youth centers. No one questioned where the money came from. No one dared. Michael isn't smiling. Money surrounds him. Luxury cars, cash, respect born from fear. Yet every night he dreams of the family he lost, the woman he loved, his two children. He whispers to himself, I had everything except what mattered. The shooting. The afternoon began like any other in Harlem. Children laughed as they played basketball in the neighborhood park. Mothers hurried home carrying grocery bags. Music drifted from passing cars. Store owners swept their sidewalks before closing for the evening. Life continued as if nothing extraordinary was about to happen. Across the street, hidden beyond the corner of an aging brick building, 15-year-old Malik stood alone. His hands trembled so violently he could barely hold the gun. His breathing was quick and uneven. His palms were soaked with sweat. He had replayed this moment 1,000 times in his mind. He told himself this would end everything. He remembered his mother before the drugs. She used to sing while cooking breakfast. She never missed one of his basketball games. Every night she tucked him into bed and prayed over him. Then the drugs came. Slowly she disappeared. She stopped coming home. She stopped remembering birthdays. Eventually, she stopped remembering she was a mother. Malik's older brother tried to provide for the family, but began running errands for men connected to Michael's organization. The easy money became harder drugs. The drugs became addiction. The addiction became an overdose. Malik still remembered standing beside his brother's casket. He remembered promising himself that someone would pay. For months, he convinced himself there was only one person responsible, Michael, the man everyone feared, the man who seemed untouchable. Today, Malik believed justice was finally within his reach. Across the street, Michael stepped out of the neighborhood community center after quietly dropping off a donation for the local children. Several people waved. He smiled and waved back. Malik watched from the shadows. His fingers rested against the trigger. His entire body shook. A voice inside him whispered, Don't do this. Another voice answered, It's too late. Tears filled his eyes. "I just want the pain to stop," he whispered. Michael looked in Malik's direction without recognizing him. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Malik froze. Michael wasn't laughing. He wasn't threatening anyone. He wasn't surrounded by bodyguards. He was simply walking toward his truck. The moment of hesitation passed. Malik squeezed the trigger. The first shot echoed through the neighborhood. Then another, and another. Michael staggered backward. A bullet tore through his shoulder. Another struck his side. One entered his head. Time seemed to stop. Michael collapsed onto the pavement. People screamed. Children ran for cover. Store owners pulled frightened families inside. Cars screeched as drivers tried to escape the chaos. Someone shouted, "Call 911." Another rushed towards Michael, desperately pressing a jacket against his wounds. Blood spread across the sidewalk. Sirens could already be heard in the distance. Across the street, Malik stared in disbelief. The gun slipped from his fingers and clattered against the concrete. His knees buckled beneath him. What have I done? He wasn't looking at a monster. He was looking at a dying man. Every ounce of hatred that had fueled him vanished in an instant, replaced by crushing regret. If you're enjoying Michael's story and want to follow him on every mission as he travels the world, sharing the hope of Jesus Christ, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Every Tuesday and Friday will bring you another chapter in Michael's mission as God leads him to people whose lives are about to change forever. Now, let's continue. The assignment. The peace surrounding Michael was like anything he had ever known. There was no fear, no hatred, no regret. The anger that had consumed him for decades had simply vanished. Every burden he carried seemed to melt away. He felt completely known and completely loved. As he walked with Jesus, Michael realized something that overwhelmed him. Nothing in his life had been hidden. Every lie, every act of violence, every family destroyed because of his choices. Every child who grew up without a father because of the streets he helped to create. Jesus saw it all, yet he did not feel condemned. He felt mercy. Tears streamed down his face. He fell to his knees. I don't deserve to be here. Jesus looked at him with compassion that words could never fully describe. No one earns my grace. Michael wept harder. I've hurt so many people. I wasted my life. I took fathers from children. I poisoned neighborhoods. I destroyed families. I don't deserve another chance. For what seemed like an eternity, Michael simply remained there, overwhelmed by a love he had never imagined possible. Finally, he looked up. If I can stay here with you, I never want to leave. Everything around him was filled with peace. There was no pain, no violence, no fear, only perfect love. Then Jesus spoke with calm authority. Michael, your work on earth is not finished. Michael's heart sank. I don't want to go back. I know. But there are people who are where you once were. They believe they are beyond forgiveness. They believe no one loves them. They believe their past has already written their future. They are wrong. Michael listened through tears. I'm sending you back. Tell them what my Father has done for you. Love those the world has forgotten. Forgive those who wrong you. Pray for the broken. Care for the poor. Strengthen the weary. And proclaim the good news that salvation is found in me. Michael lowered his head. I will. Then came a burden that settled deeply within his heart. Call people to repentance. Do not speak with pride or condemnation. Speak with compassion you have received. Tell them they are loved. Tell them there is forgiveness. Tell them to turn to me while there is still time. Michael's heart trembled. He understood the urgency. Then Jesus continued, tell them to live ready. I have promised that I will come again. My promise is true. No one knows the day or the hour except the Father. But my people must remain faithful, watchful, and prepared. Michael bowed his head in worship. I'll tell everyone I can. I'll go wherever you send me. I'll never stop. Jesus smiled. Many will reject your message. Some will mock you. Some will hate you because they hated me first. But do not grow weary. I'll be with you. Michael asked one final question. What if I'm afraid? The answer filled him with peace. You will not walk alone. My spirit will guide you. When you do not know where to go, I will lead you. When you do not know what to say, pray first and trust me. When you grow tired, remember that I have already gone before you. Michael looked across the beauty surrounding him one last time. I don't want to leave. I know, but there's still a harvest. There are still hearts waiting to hear the truth. There are still sons and daughters waiting to come home, and I desire that they know my love. The brilliant light around Michael became brighter than the sun. The peace remained, but he could feel himself being drawn away. The last words impressed upon his heart were simple, yet they would guide the rest of his life. Go, love, forgive, tell them about me. Be faithful until the end. Suddenly, the sound of heart monitors pierced the silence. Michael gasped for air. Doctors rushed around him. Someone shouted, "We've got him back." As his eyes slowly opened, tears rolled down his face. He whispered the last words of his new life. Yes, Lord. Back to earth. Darkness disappeared in an instant. The overwhelming peace Michael had experienced was suddenly replaced by the harsh sound of alarms and beeps. His chest felt as though it had been struck by lightning. Air rushed violently into his lungs. He gasped. His entire body jerked. His eyes flew open. Bright hospital lights blinded him. Doctors and nurses froze. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then one of the doctors shouted, "He's back!" Another nurse looked at the heart monitor before looking back at Michael. "I've got a pulse." The room exploded into activity. Someone checked his pupils. Another adjusted the oxygen mask. Another called for additional staff. No one could explain what they were seeing. One physician quietly whispered, "This isn't possible." Michael tried to speak, but no words came. He could still remember the peace, the love, the presence of Jesus. He instinctively reached upward as though trying to hold on to something that was no longer visible. Tears streamed silently down his face. He wasn't crying because he had survived. He was crying because he had left the most beautiful place he had ever known. For the next several days passed in a blur. Machines surrounded his hospital bed. Doctors ordered scan after scan. Detectives came asking questions about the shooting. Former associates filled the waiting room. Some came because they cared. Others came to find out who had dared shoot the most feared man in Harlem. Michael barely noticed them. His thoughts were somewhere else. One of the neurosurgeons gently explained that one of the bullets remained lodged inside his head. Removing it would cause even greater damage. For now, it would remain. The doctors prepared Michael for a difficult recovery. Instead, something remarkable happened. Day after day, he grew stronger. Against every medical expectation, he survived. Some called it luck. Others called it impossible. Michael called it mercy. He knew exactly why he had lived. God wasn't finished with him. When Michael was finally discharged from the hospital, Harlem looked exactly as it always had. The same streets, the same apartment buildings, the same sirens, the the same drug corners. Nothing around him had changed, but everything inside him had. The expensive cars no longer impressed him. The money he had spent years chasing suddenly felt meaningless. Fear no longer gave him satisfaction. Power no longer made him feel important. He found himself looking at people differently. Instead of seeing customers, he saw fathers. Instead of seeing addicts, he saw sons and daughters. Instead of seeing strangers, he saw people made in the image of God. That frightened him. He didn't understand what was happening. One afternoon while driving through Harlem, he felt something he couldn't explain. It wasn't a loud voice, not even a vision, just a quiet conviction deep within his heart. Pull over. Michael looked around the truck. No one was there. He tightened his grip on the steering wheel and kept driving. A few moments later, the same gentle prompting returned. Pull over. Michael frowned. What is happening to me? He reluctantly pulled to the curb beside a small neighborhood park. He sat there for nearly a minute. Nothing happened. He shook his head. I am really losing my mind. Just as he started the engine again, he noticed an elderly man sitting alone on a weathered park bench. The man's shoulders shook as he quietly cried. Michael couldn't explain why, but he felt compelled to walk over. Sir, are you all right? The elderly man looked up with tired eyes. My wife passed away yesterday. We came to this park every Tuesday for 43 years. I just didn't know where else to go. Michael sat beside him. Neither man spoke for several minutes. Finally, Michael quietly asked, would it be all right if I prayed with you? The man stared at him. I asked God this morning to send someone. Michael lowered his head. It was the first time in his life he had ever prayed aloud for another person. His words were simple. No polished speech, no religious language, just honesty. Father, please comfort this man. Wrap him in your peace. Remind him that you have not forgotten him. Stay close to him in his grief. In Jesus' name, amen. When they lifted their heads, the elderly man's expression had changed. He smiled through the tears. I don't know who you are, but thank you. Michael slowly walked back to his truck. His heart raced. The quiet prompting had led him exactly where he needed to be. Over the following weeks, it happened again and again. Sometimes the impression was the only one sentence. Turn left. Go inside. Wait here. Speak to her. Buy him lunch. Pray. Every time Michael obeyed, someone was waiting. A grieving widow, a homeless veteran, a frightened teenager, a single mother who had just received devastating news. He couldn't explain it. The more he obeyed, the more often it happened. Yet every night he lay awake asking himself the same question. Am I losing my mind? The bullet was still lodged inside his head. Maybe the doctors had missed something. Maybe his brain had been damaged. Maybe he was imagining everything. The uncertainty terrified him. Still, every time he followed that quiet prompting, someone found hope. Someone found comfort. Someone found a reason to keep living. Michael couldn't understand it, but he also couldn't deny it. Deep inside, he sensed that his life was no longer his own. Something, or rather, someone was leading him. He simply didn't know what it all meant yet. And that question would eventually lead him back to the one childhood friend he had not spoken of in years. Michael meets Malik. The police found Malik 3 days later. He hadn't run very far. He was hiding in an abandoned apartment only a few blocks from where the shooting happened. 15 years old, one pair of jeans, a backpack with 2 shirts, no father, no food, no place to call home. When detectives questioned him, he admitted everything. I shot Michael. They asked him why. Malik stared at the floor. Because he killed my family. The detective frowned. Did he kill them? Malik shook his head. No, but the drugs did. My mom started using, my brother started selling. My brother died from an overdose. My mom stopped being my mom. His voice cracked. I hated him. The newspapers called him a cold-blooded killer. The neighborhood called him brave. The truth was much different. He was just a broken child carrying more pain than anyone his age should ever know. Weeks later, Michael was finally strong enough to leave the hospital. His former crew expected one phone call, one order. They knew exactly what would happen. The boy would disappear. That's how the old Michael would handle things. Word spread quickly that Michael wanted to see Malik. Even the detectives wondered why. The meeting was arranged inside a juvenile detention center. Malik spent the entire night preparing himself to die. He believed Michael had come to make him suffer before ordering someone to finish the job. When the heavy steel door opened, Malik couldn't look up. Footsteps slowly approached. Then, silence. Michael stood only a few feet away. He looked at the frightened teenager, not with anger, not with hatred, but with tears in his eyes. For several moments, neither of them spoke. Finally, Michael quietly asked, "Look at me." Malik slowly lifted his head. "I know who you are," Michael said. "I know what you did." Malik nodded. I'm so sorry." "I know sorry isn't enough. I deserve whatever you're going to do." Michael slowly walked closer. The correctional officers instinctively tensed, ready to intervene. Instead, Michael wrapped his arms around the teenager. At first, Malik froze. No one had hugged him in years. His body trembled. Then he broke. The tears came all at once. Deep sobs echoed through the visitation room. He kept repeating the same words. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Michael held him until the crying slowed. Then he gently said, "Malik, I forgive you." The boy stared at him in disbelief. Michael continued, "When I was your age, I was just as angry. I blamed everyone else for my pain. I made choices that destroyed families. I thought money and power could fill the emptiness inside me. They couldn't. You thought killing me would take your pain away. It didn't, and it never could. Only Jesus can heal a broken heart. Only Jesus can give you the future you think you've already lost." Malik whispered, "Why would you forgive me?" Michael smiled through tears. "Because I was forgiven first. If Jesus could forgive me for everything I've done, how could I refuse to forgive you?" For the first time since his mother's addiction, Malik allowed himself to hope. Over the following months, Michael visited Malik every week. They talked, read scripture together, prayed together. Sometimes they sat in silence. Sometimes they laughed. Sometimes Malik asked difficult questions about God, forgiveness, and why bad things happen. Michael never pretended to have every answer. He simply shared what God had done in his own life. When Malik was eventually released into a supervised community program, Michael petitioned to become his legal guardian with the court's approval and the support of social services. Michael prepared a bedroom in his home. When Malik walked through the front door carrying everything he owned in one small backpack, Michael smiled. "Welcome home, son." Malik looked around the house. "You mean I can stay?" "As long as you need." "You don't owe me anything." "I know. So why?" Michael placed a hand on the young man's shoulder. "Because someone once gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve one. Now it's my turn to give one to you." Over time, Michael enrolled Malik back in school, helped him catch up on the years of missed education, and encouraged him to dream again. For the first time in his life, Malik had someone who really believed in him. From that day forward, whenever Michael doubted his mission, he only had to look across the dinner table at Malik. He saw living proof that no one is beyond the reach of God's grace. Brothers at the crossroads. Before the money, before the drugs, the badges, before the headlines, there were two boys growing up on the same block in Harlem, Michael and David. Born only 3 months apart, they were inseparable. They rode bicycles through the neighborhood until the streetlights came on. They played basketball at the community center every Saturday. They dreamed about escaping poverty. Neither one of them imagined how differently those dreams would unfold. Michael's mother, Mama Evelyn, often joked, "If I couldn't find Michael, I knew he was with David." The two boys laughed together, got into harmless trouble together, and protected each other from neighborhood bullies. They were like brothers. But as they entered their teenage years, the streets began offering them different futures. One afternoon, while walking home from school, they watched a man step out of a brand new luxury car. Gold watch, designer clothes, cash in his pockets. People moved out of his way. Michael couldn't take his eyes off of him. "That's the life I want," Michael said. David shook his head. "My dad says that kind of money always comes with a price." Michael laughed. "I don't care what the price is. I don't want to be poor forever." David looked around the neighborhood they both loved. "I don't either, but I want to sleep at night." The years passed. David buried himself in books. He stayed after school for tutoring. A retired police officer who volunteered at the community center noticed his discipline and encouraged him to apply for college. David earned a scholarship to study criminal justice. It wasn't easy. He worked nights, studied on weekends, and refused to quit. After graduating, he joined the New York Police Department. He believed that changing a community started with protecting it. He quickly earned a reputation for honesty, compassion, and courage. He listened before he judged. He treated people with dignity, whether they were victims or suspects. His supervisors noticed. Years later, David was recruited into a federal service where his integrity, patience, and investigative skills eventually led to a career with the CIA. His work often took him around the world, helping disrupt criminal organizations, rescue vulnerable people, and support international partners. He never forgot where he came from. Michael's path couldn't have been more different. He dropped out of school before graduation. The streets became his classroom. Older criminals became his teachers. He learned how to make money, how to command respect through fear, how to build an empire that seemed untouchable. By the time he was 30, Michael had more money than he ever imagined. Luxury cars, expensive homes, influence, power, everything he once thought he wanted. Yet every success left him feeling emptier than the one before. Years passed without the two friends speaking. David heard Michael's name on intelligence reports. Michael occasionally saw David's face on the evening news after major law enforcement operations. Each wondered what had become of the other. Then came the shooting, the near-death experience, the hospital, the miracle no one could explain. When Michael finally knocked on David's front door, decades of silence disappeared in a single embrace. David stepped back and looked at his childhood friend. "You look different." Michael smiled softly. "I am." Rachel welcomed Michael inside with a warm smile. Dinner was already on the table. As they sat together, David asked the question he had carried for years. "What happened to you?" Michael looked down at his hands. "For years, I thought we chose different roads because one of us was smarter." He looked up at David. "I was wrong. I chose a road that promised me everything except peace." David nodded quietly. "And I chose a road that cost me a lot, but gave me peace. I wouldn't trade." Michael smiled. "I finally understand." The two men sat in silence for a moment, remembering the boys they used to be. David finally broke the silence. "You know, Michael, we both wanted to save people." Michael looked puzzled. "I tried to do it by enforcing the law," David smiled. "And now God's sending you to reach hearts that no badge ever could." Rachel reached across the table and placed her Bible in front of Michael. "Maybe God allowed your paths to separate so one day he could use both of them together." For the first time, Michael saw it. One childhood friend had spent his life protecting people from evil. The other had lived in evil, been rescued by God's grace, and was now being sent back into darkness to bring others to Christ. Different roads, one faithful God. And from that day forward, whenever Michael received a new assignment, David quietly worked behind the scenes, sharing information that could help protect innocent lives, while Rachel and Mama Evelyn faithfully covered every mission in prayer. Their childhood friendship had become something greater. They were now partners in a mission far bigger than either of them had ever imagined. A new beginning. Several weeks after Malik moved into Michael's home, life began to feel different. The house, once quiet and empty, was now filled with the smell of breakfast each morning. Michael's mother hummed old church hymns while cooking. She insisted Malik call her Mama Evelyn. He secretly wanted to call her Grandma anyway. Every morning before school, she placed a hand on his shoulder. Let's thank God for another day. At first, Malik felt awkward. Eventually, he began praying too. For the first time in years, he felt safe. One evening, Michael and Malik sat on the front porch watching the sun disappear behind the Harlem skyline. Neither spoke for a while. Finally, Malik broke the silence. Can I ask you something? Michael smiled. You can ask me anything. Were you really dead? Michael looked toward the sky. The doctor said my heart had stopped for 70 minutes. What happened? Michael was quiet for a moment. When I was lying in that street, I thought my life was over. I remember seeing my body. I remember feeling a peace I'd never known. I experienced a love unlike anything I'd ever felt before. I didn't want to come back. Malik listened without saying a word. Michael continued, but I knew my life wasn't finished. I came back knowing I couldn't keep living for myself. I believe God gave me another chance. Malik looked at him. A second chance? Michael nodded. Yeah, a second chance to do what I should have been doing all along. What's that? Michael smiled. Helping people find hope. Praying with them. Telling them that no matter what they've done, God hasn't stopped loving them. Telling them that Jesus Christ can change any life, including mine. Malik looked down at his hands. So what happens now? Michael leaned back in his chair. I've been praying about that. I believe God is calling me to travel. Not for money, not for fame, but to go wherever people have lost hope. Some will be addicts. Some will be gang members. Some will be people everyone else has given up on. I'm supposed to remind them that Jesus hasn't given up on them. Malik's face fell. So you leaving? Michael placed a hand on his shoulder. I'll leave for a few days at a time, but I'll always come home. And I'll call you every day. You'll never wonder where I am. You'll never wonder if someone is coming back for you. I promise. Michael smiled toward the front door where his mother was watching from the kitchen window. You'll stay here. My mother has already decided your family. Malik laughed. Yeah, I kind of figured that. She's already making me clean my room. Michael laughed too. Well, that means she loves you. The front door opened. Mama Evelyn stepped onto the porch carrying 2 glasses of lemonade. I heard that. And they all 3 laughed. She sat beside Malik and gently brushed his hair back from his forehead the way a grandmother would. You listen to me, young man. When Michael is away helping people, this is still your home. You go to school, you'll do your homework, and you'll help me with the groceries. And every evening we're going to pray for Michael. Malik smiled. Yes, ma'am. She kissed the top of his head. And every evening we'll pray for the people God sends into his path. Michael watched the 2 of them. For years, he had believed his family was gone forever. Now, by God's grace, he realized the Lord had given him a new family. Later that night, Michael packed a duffel bag, a Bible, a notebook, a change of clothes. His mother stood beside the door. You've always traveled, she said, but this time you're traveling for the right king. Michael hugged her. I couldn't have done it without your prayers. She smiled. I started praying for you before you were born. I never stopped. Michael turned to Malik. I'm trusting you to take care of Mama Evelyn while I'm gone. Malik grinned. I'll protect her. I know you will. As Michael walked toward the door, Malik called after him. Now, when will we see you again? Michael looked back. Soon. But remember this, I'm not leaving you. I'm following where God is leading me. And every place I go, I'll be praying that someone else's life changes the way ours did. Michael stepped into the cool Harlem night. His phone buzzed with a message from David. He looked toward the sky. Lord, I'm ready. He climbed into his truck and drove toward his first mission. As Michael's journey continues, one truth remains the same. No one is too broken for God's mercy. No one is too far gone for His grace. And no darkness is greater than the light of Jesus Christ. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Michael's Mission. If this story encouraged you, strengthened your faith, or reminded you of God's amazing grace, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Join us every Tuesday and Friday as Michael travels to the darkest places in the world, following God's leading to bring the hope of Jesus Christ to those who need it most.